Amnesty International roundly condemned the execution of 47 people on the 2nd of January. What made the situation worse was that 4 of those killed were Shia Muslim activists, one of them a prominent Shia Muslim cleric, Sheikh Nimr. He was sentenced after a grossly unfair trial, like so many others who faced the death penalty in Saudi Arabia. At the moment, we're campaigning on behalf of 3 alleged juvenile offenders, one of them Sheikh Nimr's nephew, Ali Nimr, and they are sentenced to death and could be executed imminently. The mass executions in Saudi Arabia at the beginning of this year inflamed sectarian tensions. They provoked protests in many countries where there are Shia Muslim communities, including in Iran, which roundly condemned the executions. But Iran itself has an appalling record when it comes to the death penalty. They put to death over 800 individuals last year, and they are also guilty of putting to death juvenile offenders. Well, the human rights situation in Saudi Arabia over the last year has gone from bad to worse. We've seen a crackdown on human rights activists, other civil society activists. We've seen Saudi Arabia lead a bombing campaign in Yemen, which has led to the killing of hundreds of civilians and the commission of war crimes. And we've seen an execution spree. We've seen over 150 people killed judicially in Saudi Arabia between January and November. Well, the international community has expressed muted concern over the mass executions in Saudi Arabia at the beginning of this year. However, normally the international community is almost silent on the patterns of gross human rights violations that take place in the kingdom. Strategic allies such as the US and the UK supply Saudi Arabia with arms that help them in their bombing campaign in Yemen, where war crimes are being committed. And they should really consider putting human rights above their economic interests, which unfortunately is not happening at the moment. Raif Badawi was sentenced to 1,000 lashes. His crime, insulting Islam according to the Saudi authorities and setting up an online forum for public debate. He was flogged with 50 lashes a year ago and since then has been held in prison. Amnesty International has been campaigning tirelessly on his behalf and also on behalf of the dozens of other prisoners of conscience who are also languishing in jail in Saudi Arabia for no other reason than the fact that they've either spoken out against the Saudi authorities or they've conducted human rights work in the country.